Peace, family. I'm Dark Vader, and this is Feel Free. Here we give formerly incarcerated individuals and their families a platform to speak their truth. Feel free. We got the brother here, Amir. Thank you for popping up. Appreciate it.
Of course.
And basically, we're just gonna go into, we were both incarcerated. I did 12 and a half years. I came home 2017. How much time did you do?
Altogether, I did 26 years.
26 years.
Yeah, I was in the joint from 17 years of age to 43.
That's a big gap. You kind of, so you basically grew up
In prison.
in prison.
Yeah. People ask me, yo, where you from? And I get a little, like right now, I get stuck with answering that. I was born in Harlem. I spent the first few years of my life in Harlem. I moved to the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx for like 12 years, and then I got 26 years up north. Comstock, Clayton, Attica, Auburn, all.
Yeah, so it's really hard to say where you're from.
From upstate New York.
Yeah. Then you can't even say where upstate.
From Buffalo,
Yeah.
closer, a little further away from Buffalo, like Attica. Are you from Attica? No, but
So before you got incarcerated, like how was your life? Like, were you into crime before you got locked up?
Yeah, but it wasn't like a life of crime before I got locked up.
Because you were 17 when you got locked up. So
Right.
like, when did your life into crime actually start?
About, I would say about 13, 14. It started with petty stuff.
Yeah.
Like boosting shit. That wasn't really for me. You know what I mean? All the sneaky stuff. I could never like it just wasn't me. Burglaries and sneaking and trying to put stuff in my pockets and stuff like that. That wasn't for me. But then my parents. So I live with my stepfather and my mother. My mother worked sometimes. My steppops was like a slave, and he worked sometimes 7 days a week.
Wow.
And we didn't want for anything, but we didn't have the best of shit.
You always want more when you're a kid.
Right.
I understand because it was the same way with me. Like, I was born here in Harlem, then I moved to Cleveland, Ohio to live with my father. So I'm being raised by my father and my stepmother, and I didn't want for anything. My father made sure that I lived in a house, a nice house and everything. Even though we lived in the suburbs, 2 blocks, not even 2 blocks, 4 houses away was the hood. So it's like, okay, I can't really separate from the hood because the only thing that's separating us is like 4 houses. And then right there is the hood. And it's like, even though I wasn't in poverty like most of these kids, these was my friends. So I was doing what they was doing.
Right.
And without his attention, because his attention really wasn't on me. His attention was working,
providing,
being in the street, because he was also a street guy, and he was also chasing women. My stepmother was a nurse, so she couldn't, be there. So what was left? Hanging with my friends and hanging with them. Peer pressure, wanting to be accepted, messing with gangs and stuff like that.
My thing was conspicuous consumption, man. I had a friend named, we called him Mike. His name was Miguel. We were like the pretty boys in school, all the girls like this, but Mike was fly. Mike had the gold chain. And when the Deodoras became like the really big thing,
he had them. Huh?
He had a couple pair of them.
Man, he was switching up.
And I was like,
wardrobe.
I was like, man, what's up? What's up? What you doing? Let me get in on it. And he plugged me in. It was a dude who should remain nameless that he had a spot around the way. He had some crack and dope, and he was like, yo, they give you it was like a $30 per diem, like money for your pockets. You get the G-bomb,
Yeah.
1,000 pack, and it was like they was killing us at 70-30.
Yeah.
But when you 13 years old,
that's some money.
What, $300 a day? Huh?
You know what you could do with that at 13?
And we talking about I was 13 in 1987.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? $300 took you a long way in 1987. You know.
That was some people's paychecks. I mean, adults.
A week.
Adults paychecks a week. So
yeah,
imagine if you can get that a day at that age.
And I was doing that, and but I like that was the crack era.
Yeah.
And that's what we were selling. We were selling crack, and I just couldn't do it. Yeah. Like I couldn't deal with it, especially. I was always kind of like a compassionate kid, and I couldn't deal with the pregnant women.
Yeah.
And I suck your dick, and I'm like, damn, Mom, like you gonna do that for this, you know? And the people selling their household wares and
stealing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's coming to sell their jewelry, the wedding bands, and I was like,
it's a whole different world.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like, what the hell am I gonna do with all this merchandise? I'm here to get cash. I'm here to get money. You know, I'm not gonna
take this
home. I'm not gonna take your microwave and your VCR and all that. You know, because like I said, I had 2 working parents basically.
You just needed extra
cash.
So
I had a VCR at home. Yeah. I had a microwave at home. I couldn't come in the
same way. I
couldn't come in the house with that stuff. But yeah, it was the money. It was the money and the flashiness and the clothes and the status, the neighborhood status. And but then I could like the drug thing, and then somebody put me on the stick-ups, and I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to worry about stashing money or holding money. The mentality that I cultivated from stick-ups at that time was, as long as Smith & Wesson made guns, I was never going to be hungry.
Yeah.
And Smith & Wesson ain't going to never stop making guns.
Nah.
But that was the mentality that I had back then. But I was young, so I got that from the older dudes around the way, like the dudes that would, the older kids would be like, and now us in our 40s, I look back at like the guys that were guided me as a child were kids themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At 13, 14, they might have been like 18 and 19. You're a kid.
You're still a kid.
18, yeah. So yeah.
So when you got locked up, like, how did that affect you? Because that had to be like a catastrophic change in your life, because everything shifts once you get locked up.
So what jail was originally, like the Allen before you got upstate.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between upstate and Rikers Island. So
plus you're adolescent, so now you're
right. It was like right. So Rikers Island was the hood. Everybody that was from the hood was all the people that went MIA from the hood.
That's where they were at.
That's where they was at.
Yeah.
That's where they was at.
Seen,
so so it took some getting used to the taking up the prison ethos. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But it was all the characters, the same characters that were in the neighborhood. And it was just like in the street, we were trying to find our way and try to define who we were and stake our claim in our territory in life. It was just like doing it like in a controlled environment. It's like a microcosm
of society.
What's going on in the street. Not the whole society, not society at large, but that that underground society. When I came, just before I came home, so my best friend was a guy I met in prison. We've been friends now about 25 years, and he went home in 2004. So he's been home almost 16 years now. He asked me just before I came home. He said, "Let me ask you something." He said, "If I asked you if you knew where I could get a gun, you know where I could get one?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "How about a kilo of cocaine? I need a kilo of cocaine right now. You know where I could get one?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "If I needed a stolen credit card, I wanted to swipe some stuff. I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "How about a chop shop? I got a stolen car. I want to get it chopped up." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Normal people don't know none of that." He said, "You take for granted you know, because you lived this life for so long. He said, that's just not normal. He said the great big world doesn't operate like that. They don't think like that. They don't have the, you know, the ends to those types of things. So it made me look at it like, you know, I started doing it with prison after, you know, maybe after about 20 years, and I had to catch myself. And I did it naturally, where I started really like prison was my life. Like it was like I was born there. I didn't even dream about the street anymore. Anytime if I did dream about somebody from my past life, they were in prison with me. Or if I did dream about the street, it was with people that I was in prison with, and they were like, had certain aspects of prison, like COs would be out in the street and stuff like that. It just like took over. You know, they didn't just have my body anymore; they had my mind.
They had your mind.
Yeah.
I realized that when I was in prison, that at first I used to always think about home. Always think about home. Always think about my family. And like, my girl. Which then after a while, it's just like, I guess for me to cope, I just had to let everything go. Like for me, I had to quit thinking about outside society and deal with what I was dealing with right then and there. And what I was dealing with was prison and how I was going to navigate and survive. And it came a time where I just didn't think about nothing in society.
I used prison as a coping mechanism. So in the course of my bid, I lost my mother. I ended up losing my father. A dude that I refer to as my brother. He wasn't my biological brother, but me and him was, you know, and then the fallout of that, especially after my mother died. My mother died, and my little sister was 18, and she didn't really know how to cope with that, and so she, you know, ended up messing with drugs and, you know, suicide attempt. My stepfather was a real reserved man. He didn't have no emotions on the top, and he just buried himself in work. And I used prison as like, I didn't have to think about what my sister was experiencing or what my, you know, the turmoil my mother just went through and the end of her life. I didn't have to think about none of that if I just immersed myself. And, you know, she died in 1996, and that was like the boom of the gang culture. And, you know, and I just immersed myself in that. If I didn't have to think about those things, if I was thinking about, like, you know, who got the bag and who got the knives and how we gonna get some scalpels and, you know, how we gonna, you know, get this money and who got beef with who and who's the big homie of this, and you know, it was just like a bunch of white noise, and that's what I needed at the time. I needed a bunch of
a distraction.
Yeah,
basically,
a destructive distraction. Because it kept me in. I went to 10 parole. No, I went to 5 parole boards. I did 10 years just with parole board hits. Doing that, and you know, I was sitting. You know, I went to my first parole board. It was funny. There was a commissioner on it named Commissioner King, big, heavy-set black guy, and he sat there and he told me, because I expressed myself pretty well, and I'm saying, you know, they'd ask you stuff like, you know, what are your plans for if you get out, and I told him at the time, and he says, yo, I can't bridge the gap between the person I'm speaking to
and he's looking at your
and
file.
and your institutional record. He said, how does, and I showed him some of the stuff that I knew, and I quoted, I think it was Plato, who said, you know, asymmetrical environments can't produce symmetry. And I said, back on the company, one of my neighbors is a cannibal, necrophiliac. You know, he was locked up. We used to call him Stink. He was locked up. He worked in a mortuary. They got him for having sex with dead bodies. And then the guy on the other side of me, I'm pretty sure you heard of him. He's from upstate New York. He's a guy that got convicted with the dummy.
The puppet man.
Puppet master.
Puppet master.
But he was on the other side of me. He's like a serial killer. He killed like 10 prostitutes, was grinding them up, making hamburgers and serving the kids in the neighborhood. I'm like, these are my neighbors up there. I said, if you expect me to be a quiet boy when I'm around fiends, I said, you know, put me in an environment where my neighbors are doctors and lawyers, and maybe you get something different out of me. But as long as I'm in here, I'm not gonna let anybody do anything to me. That was just like, especially at that time. Prison now is a lot kinder and gentler than it was back then.
Yeah.
So, I used all of that as a distraction. It cost me a lot. I try to cultivate the mentality that says there are no mistakes, there are only lessons. But sometimes that works, and other times I just like, damn, I wasted so much time.
So why do you think a lot of brothers and sisters join gangs in prison or organizations? Do you think it's for protection, camaraderie?
Oh, it's probably a little bit of all of that. I mean, there's definitely a difference because I was around for the inception of so I was really around for the inception of the Latin King thing. The Latin King thing, as far as like what we know and describe as like conventionally as gang, because you always had the 5%.
Yeah, you always had.
But they, the establishment looked at them as a gang. We didn't really look at them as a gang in our communities.
That's true.
The Muslims, I mean, it's religion. They're religion, but they operate a lot of times in the prison system like a gang. And what people fail to realize, a lot of people don't acknowledge, they're the most powerful because they're so large. But when after the Latin Kings and the Nietas came up, they started populating the prison system from Puerto Rico, and then the blood thing. I was around 1993 for the inception. It was a different reason for becoming for guys joining, grouping up like that then than there is now.
See, then it was like a necessity. It was like circling our wagons because
of what was going on.
Yeah, what was going on. Right. Because a lot of people probably don't know, but like New York State prison, especially Rikers Island, the Latins was really oppressive to black people, black brothers.
Yeah. Especially the ones that were
considered neutral or something.
The Hispanics the Hispanics that were from Puerto Rico. They were a little bit different than the ones that was from here that grew up around black people. Ate in their houses and dated your sister and stuff like that. It was a little bit different. The ones that were from over there come over here. They look at them like, yep, mess with them like that. Oh yeah, bugging. We don't do that.
And they had more status, most of them that was coming from Puerto Rico, because Nietas, that's where it came from.
Yeah, right. So they had like their motherland status.
Their motherland
we bringing it from the motherland, which, I wasn't really in the loop with the decisions that was being made from there, but I heard that later on down the line, like the leadership from over there said that the dudes that was over here was doing that was dead ass wrong.
Yeah, they shut that down.
Yeah, because they were more like a political organization over there in prison than a gang. And over here, they were just like gang banging, getting high.
Because I remember at that time, I was out there in the street, and some of my friends was Nietas. But we had no beef then out there in the street. It was just, okay, that's what you are. All right. It is what it is. But coming into prison, now it's a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, black people over here, Latins over there.
And then again, that was like a convenient excuse to do the shit that we was doing. The dudes was, in 2009, I was in Sing Sing, and I ran into a comrade who, him and I were blood back then. And he had since went home and came back. He was doing all right in the street. He got knocked with a gun in his trunk, the trunk of his car, so he didn't get a whole bunch of time. But he came back, and we spun the yard in Sing Sing, reminiscing, and he, I guess, in his time home, he had contemplated some things, and he asked me, he was like, yo, why do you think we were so, ready to commit the atrocities that we did back then? And I never really thought about it. we had a saying that, yo, it ain't easy, but it sure is fun. And it wasn't really fun, and you know, damn sure wasn't easy. But he, you know, he had an answer for me, and he was like, yo, because we were young and we didn't really leave nothing in the street. What would we breaking our neck to get back to? So, you know, it wasn't nothing to risk losing good time and to risk 2 and 3 and 4 hits at the parole board. You know, most of us came in at 16, 17. You know, we were living hand to mouth anyway. Nobody had no cars, no big stashes of money, and no houses, and no kids to try to break their neck to get back to, you know? So dudes got easily caught up in the madness.
You know what was crazy about that time? Because I remember back then, it was like, you could cut somebody and stab somebody and just go to the box, and that's it. And then do your time and come back out. It wasn't a new charge.
Yeah, most of the time it wasn't.
Not unless you almost killed somebody.
Yeah, or killed them.
Or killed them. Yeah. And even then, you probably might have got...
I know a couple dudes that got 5 years at SHU for bodies. You know, a couple dudes got 10.
It was like, I knew dudes, man, that was just predicate cutters. Yeah. They cut so many people. These dudes never got a new charge. And then fast forward, you get a new charge for having tobacco, you know?
Yeah, they for a second, it eventually got shot down but it, you know, until dudes really challenged it in court, they were giving dudes promoting prison contraband in the first degree, which is a E felony, I think. It's an E felony. For up to, I think it was 6 grams of marijuana. So if you got knocked, so before then, they said marijuana wasn't considered a dangerous substance because that's the defining line in promoting prison contraband. For the felony promoting prison contraband, you get it for a misdemeanor, and that's what you would get for marijuana. Usually, the only thing you got a felony promoting prison contraband for was for a weapon. You got caught with a scalpel or a knife or something like that. And then all of a sudden, like in the early 2000s, they were like, yo, because they were saying that dudes were actually, so this is what they did. If you got into an incident, if you and I got into an incident, you tried to cut me, I tried to cut you, what they would do immediately after boxing us is take our urine.
Yeah.
So now you know marijuana stays in your urine for up to 30 days. So we could have smoked one joint a month ago.
Yeah.
And we gave up a dirty urine. They said that the reason why we were trying to hurt each other was because we were high. And so that's why they said marijuana then, you know, went to the level of dangerous prison contraband. And so they started using that for some time to say that, they were giving dudes felonies. One dude that got like an 8-9 year bid because he blew trial on it. But then dudes litigated, you know, one thing, you know, you got dudes that are investing their time in some, you know, felonious shit in prison. Then you got some dudes that are investing their time in studying the law. The law of you know, some really good things. Everything. Some dudes are really, really nice with it. And, you know, they litigated it to the point where, you know, they started, I don't know what happened to the guys that had already been convicted. You know, I just saw something on Facebook about a guy that's in Michigan, I think it is. Michigan legalized marijuana, but he's doing 60 years in prison for getting caught with a bunch of marijuana. He's in the feds. But he hasn't been caught in Michigan. He's still in the prison. And Michigan now is legal. And that's
I was like, okay, now what?
Yeah, now what? So I haven't heard anything else about it, but you know, it's a crazy mixed up world, man. Especially coming from where, you know, so like you said, you went, even though you had basically a 2-parent household, you were with your stepmother and your pops. I was with my mom's and my step-pops. And, you know, it's not the same. You know, you might love and respect your stepmother the way I love
and respect her.
It's not the same.
Because I didn't feel that love, like how a mother would love their son. Like, when I used to go see my grandmother, I felt that love.
Right.
It's just, with her, I wasn't her biological child, so I didn't feel that love. I didn't feel that connection, and it really wasn't there. And
it's the same thing with my stepfather was a great provider, but the things, like the camaraderie a boy would usually have with his father, like him and I didn't have that. know, and but he, you know, he gave me everything.
It's okay. Oh, right.
He gave me everything, you know, materially.
Yeah,
you know,
but that's not gonna.
Nah, and so I sought out a lot of that, camaraderie, that
in the
was,
street.
yeah, with the older guys.
Same thing with me. Like all I wanted was my father to actually be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Come to a football game or something.
You know, and teach the lessons that you were supposed to learn. You know, there was an older guy in the hood, money getter. You know what I mean? He was a serious money getter, and he used to smoke bud, and I used to come around. I always, you know, lead off his buds. One day, you know, just messing with me. He was like, "What's up, man? When you gonna finally buy some bud?" I might have been about 14. I'm like, "Man, I got about $3 in my pocket," and he pulled out a wad of money, and he peeled off $500, and he gave it to me, and he said, "From this day forward," he said, "I never want to catch you with less than $100 in your pocket." And I've really lived by that ever since. And that's one of the lessons, but not maybe that particular lesson, but like lessons that you would expect to get from your father that you're gonna carry with you for the rest of your life. And I got that from a drug dealer in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was 14, he might have been about 35.
Yeah.
You know, and but I didn't. In hindsight, though, now as a 45-year-old man, I look back at the things, the mode of operations of my stepfather, and I find value in them now and incorporate them in my life now, even though they wasn't given to me like you're here, boy. But he did, like I said, his work ethic was bananas, and that's something that I've adopted. You know, I was really upset with myself. You know, I mean, I can't explain to you how much I'm upset with myself when I missed our first little meeting. You know, and he was like, "Yo," and I was like, "Oh man, I don't do that." You know, like, you know, since I've been home and the jobs I've had, I've never missed a day of work. Never. You know, I mean, you know, unaccounted for, like I've been sick and I had to, you know, call out. But, you know, just like not showing up, blowing off work, and I've never been late for work, you know. And so I've adopted like his work ethic, that I watched him. I watched him for all my life, man. Even when I was in prison, he kept it up. You know, and so he was in his 70s, you know, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, driving, because he worked in Westchester County, driving upstate, working a full 8, maybe 12 hours, driving back every day. Minimum was 6 days a week. Sometimes he did it for 7. You know, and then take odd jobs, little jobs on the side and stuff like that. Yeah, just to make sure that we had everything we wanted, you know. And
but what I realized, sometimes providing is just not enough. It's not, because like I said, at that time I was living in the suburbs, a good school system, and people were like, "Yo, what you selling crack for?" I'm selling crack because my friends are selling crack. I want to hang with my friends.
Plus, the allowance my father's giving me doesn't pay for $5,000 change.
It doesn't. Like, what I wanted, my father and stepmother was not going to pay for.
No, absolutely not.
So I was paying for it for myself.
I remember this had to be like, I guess like about 1983, 1982, 1983. When DMC was really big. And I asked my mom, it's like, "Yo, the shell toes, they superstars." That's what they call them. I said, "Yo, the superstars, niggas, the shell toe Adidas, I want those." And she was like, I think they were, back then, they were like $50, $60, which was a grip in 1982, 1983.
$50 for some sneakers?
What? You know, you get the $9.99 joints that's on the table at Modell's. So I asked her, she was like, "I think about it." And so I came home from school one day, and she was like, "Yo, go look on your bed." And I ran in there, and there was a white plastic bag, and it was obviously it was a sneaker box in the bag. And I was like, "Yes, God!" And I tore everything open, and I didn't even pay attention that the box wasn't an Adidas box. And I opened it up, and I lifted them out, and I was like, When I went in the kitchen where she was cooking that, and I was like, "What's this?" She was like, "Those are the sneakers you told me you wanted." And they had the shell toe, but they were like, I think they were like K-Swiss, because they had four or five stripes. And I was like, Adidas got 3 3 stripes. She was like, I got extra stripe, it's better. And I was like, I can't wear these. You crazy. You're gonna get me laughed out of the school. You're gonna get me beat up. I'm wearing these to school.
Back then, that's what happened.
Yeah, you're gonna get me beat up. No, I was like, nah, I'm not. I'm good. She's like, boy, you're gonna wear them shoes. Yeah. I spent $12 on them. Yeah, but that was like my introduction to, oh, I need to do something else.
I gotta buy
I need to do something else. I can't run around in this shit.
You know, it's crazy how we get caught up in that materialism at that age, man. It's like, and it can like guide your life. It's crazy because like I don't need for nothing. I have shoes on my feet,
right,
but I need these type of shoes, and I'm willing to do this.
But you needed to, you know what? One of my sisters, she tried to say I was deflecting, that I wasn't taking responsibility, and I don't think that was the case at all. But I acknowledge the fact that, so I was really big into sports. I was really big into extracurricular activities. So I played football, I played for DeWitt Clinton High School. I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, I did wrestling. I was a member of the Marine Cadets over there on Kingsbridge in the Bronx and the Armory. I did a lot of stuff, and I had so they're probably dead now, but I won't say their name anyway. I had a coach at DeWitt Clinton. And so when I went there, they originally told us that we had to maintain, I think it was a B+ average in order to stay academically viable to play sports. So I remember the first report card I got, I went and took it to the coach. And I was like, hey, he was like, what's this? And I said, no, I'm just letting you know that I maintained the B+. So he was like, he handed it back to me. He says, you can play football, right? I said, yeah. He said, you're going to get me to the PSAL championship? I said, yeah. He said, I don't give a fuck about your grades.
That's crazy.
I don't care about that. So I say that to say there were a lot of adults in my life who could have guided, you know what I mean? But I think one of the, and this is crazy, that I think my biggest problem in that realm was that I was always regarded as intelligent. Like I was in all the top academic classes in school. So most adults was like, he's smart, he'll figure it out, you know? And they left me to my own devices. Yeah. And I had adults, like I had the drill sergeant at the Marine Cadets, and you know, like just a bunch of adults who could have stepped in and been like, yo, hold up, you know what I mean? You're bugging.
Yeah.
And they just
let you.
Yeah, like I said, you know, they said, oh, this kid is smart. He'll figure it out. He'll learn along the way. And no, I mean, you learn some shit, but you pay for some